this, but everything's been getting worse. Every second. If we don't do something, we're all gonna be dead!
We're gonna get you.
Does that sound fun? Rated R.
It's funny, because I was trying to look for that specific trailer that I just showed you, with the thing in the beginning where Jane Levy's just like, don't skip it, don't skip it, don't skip it. And I saw that on there. I didn't even know that trailer I clicked on was actually it. But yeah, that was a really odd way to start that thing. I mean, that was something that used to be in front of, like, videos on YouTube when you were watching it and you have ads come up, and the thing tells you, you know, don't skip this ad and all that, and most of us skipped the ad anyway, because we knew that nothing was going to happen. But let's just say that, yeah, if Jane Levy was going to tell you to not skip a video like that, yeah, you'd be scared out of your mind, too, because, yeah, she is pretty, she's pretty terrifying in this. I will give it that. But welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films that make up April 5th, 2013. And we start off, of course, with The Evil Dead, the 4th installment of the Evil Dead franchise, and essentially a reboot of the original franchise in general here, because it's pretty much the same concept as the original Evil Dead, except with, you know, much younger, is the younger actors of today. It follows the similar setup to The Evil Dead. You follow a group of 5 people who are under attack by dead people in a remote cabin in the woods. And one of them is Jane Levy, the other is Shiloh Fernandez, Lou Taylor Pucci, Jessica Lucas, and Elizabeth Blackmore. The big thing with this one here is that the first Evil Dead movie, it's very much in the same line as the first Evil Dead movie, pretty much. I mean, the other movies in the Evil Dead series, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, would be more on the comedic, would add more comedy in there. And while there's a couple of times in here where there is some fun comedy in here, it's pretty much an effective, a genuine scary movie in general here. And it works mostly because of that. It's a movie that I thought it was most people's introduction to this new generation's introduction to the Evil Dead overall. But I mean, I'd already seen the other Evil Dead. I'd seen Army of Darkness before this, but I never saw Evil Dead's 1 and 2 until it came out on 4K in around 2020. That's how long it took me to actually get to those movies. But this is a really good film, and it works because it does a good job of introducing a new generation to the world of the Evil Dead movies in general here. And it's a good way to start off with this movie here, where you don't have the comedic aspects of the sequels, like Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, but it delivers what the original one meant to a lot of people, 32 years ago. And it helps you have a really good director in Fede Alvarez, who, of course, would later go on to direct stuff like the Don't Breathe movies, and more recently, Alien Romulus, and it shows what he can do as a director with this case. And also helps that you have people like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell among the producers in here, to give you kind of an idea of how to do this for a new generation. And I think it did a pretty good job at it, but the real star of the movie is Jane Levy. I was talking about in Fun Size. They needed to give her better scripts to work with because, man, movies like Fun Size and then later on with Monster Trucks really took down a lot of the good stuff that she brought as a leading actress and things. I mean, she's great on Shameless. She's great on Suburgatory. She kills it in this movie as Mia. I mean, she is so damn good in this movie. Like, she's the thing that you will remember once seeing this movie. And it's a shame because as soon as she went to this, she went back to starring in crappy stuff again with the aforementioned Monster Trucks. But then again, she did stuff like Don't Breathe, and then also she was just in the she was in the recent Toxic Avenger reboot, and then she's done stuff like Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. So I'll say that I guess I should say that her career hasn't really fallen apart that much, but it does feel like that she kind of fell off the face of the earth once Evil Dead came out, because you never really heard from her much after this. But she's been doing stuff since then. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it with it, but you see this, it's just like, man, this woman is really, really damn good. I mean, she can be funny, but she can also scare the living bejesus out of you, especially with the way that she's played in this character who's stuck inside the cellar all throughout the course of the movie. It's just like, it's just so well done, man. And, you know, it ties itself back into the other Evil Dead movies, too, with that cameo by Ash at the end of the movie, making people think that, hey, maybe there's going to be a sequel where he shows up in it. And there was going to be a sequel with him in it, but they eventually decided instead to do Ash vs. the Evil Dead as the Star series, and then they did eventually do another Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rise, about 10 years later, which is a phenomenal movie. I can't recommend that one enough. If you haven't seen that one already, seek out Evil Dead Rise. This one overall, it's a fun movie overall. It's the weakest, in quotation marks, of the series, but these movies overall are a ton of fun, regardless of if you're looking for a good comedy, if you're looking for a good horror movie. You find it all in these movies here. This one is definitely the lesser of the films, but that does not take away from the enjoyment factor of it at all. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Evil Dead, this was my introduction to the series. That's honestly all I got to say about Evil Dead. It is fun for what it is. Definitely the lesser of the films in general, but still fun all across the board, so take that for what you will. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is a classic movie getting re-released in theaters for the first time in 3D. I wasn't even going to do that, but my hands were up in the air like that. But Jurassic Park 3D.
Dinosaurs and man. How can we have the slightest idea of what to expect?
Must go faster. Jurassic Park 3D, rated PG-13, only in theaters for a limited time, April 5th.
So this was basically kind of one of the last, if not the last big digital 3D re-release of a classic movie. That trend that began with The Lion King 2 years ago kind of faded out of obscurity pretty quickly. But, hey, it was a good time. You wanted to see some classic movies on the big screen for the first time, and I certainly took advantage of that with Jurassic Park. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a chance to see that on the big screen once in your lifetime? It's like seeing Close Encounters and Jaws or Ghostbusters on the big screen. I took advantage of all those times, and, yeah, I was there for this, but there's also kind of another thing I think they were trying to go for here, because they had announced around this time that they were talking about plans for a new Jurassic Park movie, and I got the feeling that maybe, just maybe, they were looking at putting this back in theaters to see if there really was a demand there for a new Jurassic Park movie, and sure enough, the film did good enough business overall to convince Universal that, yeah, now's the time to go ahead and do a new Jurassic Park movie. Thus, we got Jurassic World 2 years later. We'll touch on that in about 2 years' time, but if you need to know the story about this, then clearly I'd like to welcome you out of that rock you've been living under for the past 30-plus years. I mean, hey, it's been wonderful. You know, you missed out on some stuff that we'd like to forget about. And you're going to see some stuff now that you're going to probably want to forget about. But the film is set on a fictional island of Isla Nubla near Costa Rica, where wealthy businessman John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, and a team of genetic scientists have created a wildlife park of de-extinct dinosaurs. When industry sabotage leads to a catastrophic shutdown of the park's power facilities and security precautions, a small group of visitors struggle to survive and escape the now perilous island with all these dinosaurs on the run. And I pretty much have talked about this movie to death many, many times in the past. And like I said, the only real new thing I could bring up with it was the fact that Universal was looking at this to see if there was a demand for a new Jurassic Park movie, which there was indeed, and thus, as we mentioned before, Jurassic World would come out 2 years later. And honestly, I think I gave you some bum information, because technically this movie had been in development since Jurassic Park 3 had come out in 2001, but it had been something that kind of died down in the last couple of years. But then in January of that year, that's when Universal said, we finally have enough resources to put this out, that we're going to do a new film. And I still like to believe they put this out in theaters on that same weekend, not only for the 30th anniversary, but not only have it in 3D, but also just to see if there was a demand for it. So technically I was right about it, but I was also kind of misconstruing you on some things. But not much more really to say about this one. Jurassic Park is a classic movie. I've liked a lot of these movies in general, with the exception of the most recent one, Jurassic World Rebirth, which I think is the one that finally has killed me of this franchise. Hey, it only took them 7 movies to do it, and that one, Jurassic World Rebirth, was pretty bad, so there you go. That's my thoughts on Jurassic Park in 3D. Not much more to say about it, but hey, it was cool to see it on the big screen once in your life. So, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some indie releases that came out this weekend, starting with the first one we have here, The Company You Keep.
FBI was in my apartment. They're pissed because I'm doing a job that they own.
I have to do a lot of damage to a lot of people, but no idea how much.
Did you kill that man?
Of course not.
I don't think he's running away. I think he's trying to clear his name.
Well, I hope you saw all those names, because I completely forgot who was in this movie except for Robert Redford. And he also directed this movie, too. I think this might have been actually his last movie he directed, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, it's the last film he directed before he unfortunately passed away this past week. This past was, I think, 2 months ago, I think. September, right? Yeah, September he passed away at the age of 89 years old. This was one of his last notable films that he did as a director. He would, of course, be seen later on in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and that was probably his last overall great appearance overall. But In this movie, based off the novel by Neil Gordon, it centers around a recently widowed and single father named Jim Grant, who's played by Robert Redford, who is a former Weather Underground anti-Vietnam War militant warrant for a bank robbery and murder. Grant has been hiding from the FBI for over 30 years as an attorney in Albany, New York, and he becomes a fugitive when his true identity is exposed by Ben Shepherd, played by Shia LaBeouf. Grant must find his ex-lover Mimi, played by Julie Christie, the one person who can clear his name before the FBI catches him. Otherwise, he will lose everything, including his 11-year-old daughter, Isabel. While Ben struggles with ethical issues as a journalist, Jim and his other old friends from the Weather Underground must live with the consequences of their radical past. And this also is a cast that includes Susan Sarandon. His daughter is played by Jackie Evancho from America's Got Talent. Brendan Gleeson, Britt Marling, Anna Kendrick, Terrence Howard, Richard Jenkins, Nick Nolte, Chris Cooper, Sam Elliott, Stephen Root, Stanley Tucci. So strong cast in this movie overall, and yet I bet half of you don't even know what this movie is, because I can certainly tell you I completely had no idea what this movie was or why I never heard of it before, and that's probably not a good sign overall going for it. And sadly, seeing the movie, I can kind of see why it's been largely forgotten, because it's kind of a bore. It's the definition of a slow burn movie that, unlike a good slow burn movie, doesn't heat up when the pressure gets on here. It just keeps going and going and going. It's just like, come on, get to the point already. Like, what am I supposed to take away from this movie? And sadly, it's just not there with this film in general here. Robert Redford's made a lot of good stuff in the past, but this is one of those ones where I feel like his old man days are just kind of getting to him at this point, and it really did feel like that he had nothing left as a director, and this film really slogs on for way too long. It's a movie that's not even... It's barely over 2 hours long, but it feels like an eternity watching it. It just feels like a film that just keeps going and going and going. It just never gets anywhere in terms of a good story, in terms of anything engaging overall. The performances overall are fine, I guess. I think the best ones overall are from Julie Christie and Robert Redford and Shia LaBeouf overall. But other than that, though, there's just nothing about this movie that really makes it stand out in general, sadly. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's a skip on The Company You Keep. But hey, at least Robert Redford will at least have some more good films with him, with the Captain America, Winter Soldier, and also Avengers Endgame. Yeah, Endgame's the one he has a cameo in. But you get the idea. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, Danny Boyle's latest film, and that is Trance.
Academy Award-winning director Danny Boyle delivers a super stylish modern noir.
Where is the painting?
I can't remember. I got hit on the head.
Close your eyes.
Trance is a twisty, terrific, deliriously entertaining thriller.
The plan was simple. You hypnotize the guy, you bring me back the painting.
Was I hypnotized? Trance, rated R, in theaters April 5th.
Oh, and believe me, this is a movie that you'll remember mostly because that scene at the end there was of Rosario Dawson walking out straight up full frontal nudity, and yeah, it's let's just say that that's definitely worth the price of admission if you have the internet. In terms of the movie itself, though, this is one of Danny Boyle's major misfires overall as a filmmaker. He's made a lot of good movies. We don't usually talk smack about him, but this might be one of his more boring films in general here. So when a fine art auctioneer, played by James McAvoy, mixes up with a gang, join forces with a hypnotherapist to recover a lost painting. As boundaries between desire, reality, and hypnotic suggestion begin to blur the stakes rise faster than anyone could have anticipated. You see James McAvoy in there, as I said. Vincent Cassel is also in here, Rosario Dawson. But other than that, though, this is kind of a lame movie, man. This is a movie where we had Side Effects earlier in the year, and that's a movie that I think does a similar storyline to this much better. This one just feels like it's Danny Boyle being a little bit more artsy than he usually is, and this time around it kind of falters on him big time here. It's a movie where you just don't really get the sense that his heart and soul was in this one in general here. It's a one that kind of comes and goes. The mystery overall really isn't that engaging overall. And the one thing you really take away from the movie is that scene where Rosario Dawson is full frontal nude in your face, and that's about it. But then again, that's why we have the internet. The internet is a wonderful thing because you can look online there for free and not have to watch a movie like this. And sadly, I would say that about this film because I do say sadly because Danny Boyle hardly ever misfires, and this is definitely one of those ones that was a major, major misfire for him, unfortunately. It's a movie that feels, and I think it doesn't help that he doesn't write the script for this movie. I think that if he wrote the script for this, I think it probably would have been a little bit better, but it's not written by him. It's written by, who are the guys' names here? Joe Ahiran, who, well, that's not a good sign. One of the movies he wrote was Ultraviolet, that piece of garbage, but he wrote for Doctor Who. And then John Hodge, who wrote Trainspotting, and he's actually one of the writers that worked with Danny Boyle on Trainspotting. He's actually worked on a lot of his movies. Trainspotting, A Life Less Ordinary, The Beach, you know. He's a solid writer overall. So maybe it isn't really the writer's fault in general here. Maybe it's just not a good idea overall. But if I have to say the one thing about the movie is somebody getting butt-ass naked, front-ass naked in front of you, and you can go and watch it online, that's not a really good sign for this movie in general, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a hard skip on Trance, unfortunately, so yeah. A rare Danny Boyle misfire, to say the least.
The world's not so simple anymore. We ignored it. Now we can't.
Jackie Robinson, a black man in white baseball. You don't belong here, and you never will. I'm not going anywhere! I'm right here!
You are not the only one with something at stake here.
You give me a uniform, and I won't let them down. 42, the true story of an American legend. Rated PG-13.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. No intro this week, mostly because we only got 2 movies to look at today. And we can kind of rush through these pretty quickly, because there's not really much more to say about the 2 films we're going to talk about that hasn't already been addressed already. But it is April 12, 2013, and we are starting off, of course, with the best of the 2 new releases, and that is, of course, 42, which is, of course, the story of Jackie Robinson, the first black athlete to play in Major League Baseball during the modern era, and the title of the film reflects Robinson's jersey number, which was universally retired across all MLB teams in 1997. And you also have a cast that includes Harrison Ford, Nicole Bahari from Sleepy Hollow, Christopher Maloney, Andre Holland, Lucas Black, Hamish Linklater, Alan Tudyk, and, of course, Chadwick Boseman as Jackie Robinson. And really, the best thing you could say about the movie in general is the fact that it is the showcase for Chadwick Boseman. Now, he had been in a couple of movies before this, most notably The Express, the story about, I had the name of the person there for a second. I can't remember who it was. Where is it? The Ernie Davis story. He played Floyd Little in The Express, the Ernie Davis story, and even stuff in before that he was in stuff like he was in TV shows like All My Children, Third Watch, Law and Order, CSI New York, ER. But this is his biggest role up to that point was a show called Persons Unknown, which I have no idea what it was. It was a short-lived psychological thriller series created by Christopher McQuarrie, of all people. But yeah, it only lasted about 1 season, but nobody really knew who Chadwick Boseman was, mostly until this movie came out. This really was the movie that showed everybody that, man, this guy who's playing Jackie Robinson is damn good. And, of course, he would have that success throughout the course of the rest of the decade overall because, yeah, regardless of how bad the movies were, Chadwick Boseman always gave 110% with every role he was in. When he played Jackie Robinson, he was great. Even when he played James Brown in Get On Up, which is not a good biopic, he was still the best thing about that movie. He was great as Thurgood Marshall, even though that movie wasn't that great. And, of course, his career came to an end when he died in 2020. And he got nominated for the Oscar for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I think a lot of people would agree he should have won, but they gave it to Anthony Hopkins, basically telling Chadwick Boseman, yeah, we know you're dead and all that, and we're going to give you the nomination, but sorry, we got to give Hannibal Lecter another Oscar for some reason. No, because literally, there's no reason why Anthony Hopkins needed 2 Oscars in his life. Meanwhile, Chadwick Boseman doesn't get jack squat. I mean, that still bugs me to this very day. But in terms of this movie overall, this really is a good biopic. It's a good biopic that showcases the true power of Chadwick Boseman as this influential figure in Jackie Robinson. But not only that, though, it's one of Harrison Ford's most underrated performances, playing Branch Rickey, who owns the Brooklyn Dodgers. I mean, he is really good in this movie. He gives one of his strongest performances overall. It's a terrific film with a lot of great talent all across the board in this film. I mean, this film just works in so many ways, shape, or form. It's one of the best biopics I've ever seen. It's directed by Brian Helgeland, who, as a director, his movies have been mostly okay at best. I mean, he's read a lot of good stuff too, but he's done stuff like Payback. He did A Knight's Tale. He did The Order. Not a lot of great movies as a director. This is easily his best film overall, and it just works because you have a great young actor in Chadwick Boseman who just knocks this role out of the park, and, you know, a great cast surrounding him. I can't really say much more about this one that hasn't already been said already. It's a fantastic, fantastic film, highlighted by Boseman, highlighted by Harrison Ford, highlighted by the direction of Brian Helgeland, and highlighted by this great story that's being told here. It's a great, great film. 42, can't recommend this one enough. So, that's the good movie. Now let's get to the bad movie. Let's talk about the 5th installment of the Scary Movie series, simply known as Scary Movie 5.
Kendra?
What?
There's someone out there.
Front door open.
Someone's in the house.
Open.
Okay.
Front door
Okay.
open.
They broke in.
Just stay calm. I want you to stay calm. Underwear drawer.
Shut the hell up.
No need for that, bitch.
Bitch!
In this family,
Who's the cutest baby in the world? Little baby Aiden. Oh, jeez.
something paranormal is happening.
I feel like there's something in this house. Babe, I heard something.
There's nothing to worry about. It's just... Man, that's a lot of pants.
And the only way to stop the activity
Blaine Folder, professional psychic. I'm gonna have to get some of your personal belongings here. It's just so I can run them for ghost and demon residue. Hey, this is stealing. Demon's got my fist mount.
is to solve the mystery.
We gonna get to the bottom of this quick.
I was told you needed a dream extraction.
This tube goes in your mouth, and the other one goes in your rectum. Okay, he's in. Hang on. I'm sorry. That one goes in your mouth, and the other one goes in your rectum.
Wait, how do we know who's a witch?
Well, it's simple. Who wants to hurt you?
What time is it?
That late time.
A psychic told me a witch is out to get me.
There's always some ballerina who won't give up the spotlight. I danced the swan when I was pregnant with you.
We just had this movie! No joke! A Haunted House literally came out 3 months ago, did the exact same thing, and surprisingly did it a whole lot better than this, even though that movie is fucking garbage. In fact, of all the spoof movies we had, I don't think I ever would have thought that that movie would be the best spoof movie of the year. And even then, this movie is that movie was fucking terrible. As is this movie. This is, without a doubt, the worst of the Scary Movie films. Happily married couple Dan and Jody, played by Simon Rex and Ashley Tisdale, begin to notice some bizarre activity once they bring their lost nieces and nephew home. But when the chaos expands into Jody's job as a ballet dancer and Dan's career as an ape researcher, yeah, we're basically throwing in Black Swan and Rise of the Planet of the Apes here. They realize their family is being stalked by a nefarious demon. Together with the advice of a psychic and the aid of numerous surveillance cameras, they must figure out how to get rid of it before it's too late. You want to know how to get rid of it? Don't make this fucking movie, because Scary Movie has basically fallen into the Freeburg-Seltzer category of, let's go ahead and parody every single thing that has come out since the last Scary Movie film. I mean, they do Black Swan, they do Mama, they do Rise of the Planet of the Apes, they do Sinister, you see Inception in there, Ted is in here, Evil Dead, The Cabin in the Woods, Insidious, The Help. They didn't even wait for the Evil Dead movie to come out after 1 week. 1 week, they didn't even wait for that. They have it in this movie. That's how you know that this movie is bad. This is a terrible, terrible film, and yet this is one that's written by David Zucker, who I think is the one who writes the better Scary Movie films. He wrote the better Scary Movie films, Scary Movie 3, Scary Movie 4. Those are my favorite ones in the series, and also has Pat Proft behind the writing of this. But it's directed by Malcolm D. Lee, who is a good director who very rarely makes a bad film. I mean, this is a guy that made The Best Man, Roll Bounce, Undercover Brother, Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins, Soul Men, Barbershop The Next Cut, Girls Trip, Night School, Space Jam A New Legacy. There's the films that are not great, but they're still enjoyable. But this is the bottom of the barrel, and it basically shows that Malcolm D. Lee's not the right guy to be making these type of movies in general here. Like, I mean, I don't know if David Zucker would have been better for this, because this whole movie just feels like it's a complete waste of time. They made this because they saw all these other spoof movies coming out. They saw that the Freeburg-Seltzer empire that they had, if you even want to call it that, was dying down. And someone said, we can finally make a movie now, because nobody gives a shit what Freeburg and Seltzer were doing now. But yeah, this movie is bad. This is a terrible, terrible comedy, and it doesn't help that every single joke in here is not funny at all. Like I said, it's written like a bad Freeburg Seltzer movie. It's like this is the thing that literally killed a spoof movie for a lot of people. This is the thing that literally killed it, but it just doesn't work. It just does not work at all. It's not funny. It's not scary. It's not It's not incredible. It's not great. It's a bad movie. It's not anything of value whatsoever. Just like, it's a complete waste of your time. And for Malcolm D. Lee, at least he's going to have a much better movie coming out in November with The Best Man Holiday. At least that's a sequel that actually works and is actually really good. But this is a terrible, terrible film that is going to kill the scary movie franchise for at least 13 years before, surprise, surprise, they're making another scary movie film. This time with the same people who made A Haunted House. Yeah, we basically have gone full circle here, people. And yeah, this I'm telling you right now, I'm not feeling confident about Scary Movie 6 just on that alone. Even though the Wayans brothers are involved in it, yeah, that one I don't think is gonna help this series out at all. But I mean, it doesn't help that the new Scream movie coming out feels like a parody of feels like a scary movie film on its own merits, and that's the main focus of these films and how that series began. Like this. I got nothing else for you, man. This thing fucking sucks. Like, say what you will about Scary Movies 3 and 4. I know I'm alone on that in saying that those are good movies, but I think everyone can agree Scary Movie 5 is the worst of the worst. Plain and simple. Avoid Scary Movie 5 like the plague.
Earth was attacked. We are the last ones left. Nothing human remains.
The people you work for lied to you.
There are people down there. Why don't you tell me?
I can't protect you.
Stand down!
This time, you knew the truth.
Oblivion, rated PG-13, in theaters and IMAX, April 19th.
Was it just me, or did that sound like Professor Utonium as Morgan Freeman?
This time, you knew the truth.
I swear, that literally sounds like Tom Kane as Morgan Freeman, like he's doing the audio dubbing on this. Who knows, maybe he did, but, I don't know, I just kind of saw that when I was watching that trailer again. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the two films that make up April 19th, 2013, and as you can tell, we're not really doing our normal format of doing the intro and all that. We're just kind of going along here because we only have two movies to look at here. And we can be quick on these as well, including starting off with our first film that we have here, and that is Oblivion. Based off of Joseph Kosinski's unpublished radical... Ugh, I don't know what the hell's going on there. Based off of Joseph Kosinski's unpublished radical comics graphic novel of the same name, the film pays homage to 1970s sci-fi as a love story set in 2077 on an Earth desolated by an alien war. A maintenance technician, played by Tom Cruise, on the verge of completing his mission, finds a woman who survived a spaceship crash, leading him to question his purpose to discover the truth about the war. So this is Joseph Kosinski's follow-up to Tron Legacy, and this is also featuring, as I mentioned, Morgan Freeman, Olga Kurylenko, and also Andrea Riseborough, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, and Melissa Leo in the cast as well. And this is one of those movies where on a visual and technical level, it looks great. This movie was in IMAX, and you can definitely see why they put it in IMAX, because it is beautiful to look at. The visuals are very impressive to look at overall. The story department is where the film really does kind of fall apart, because, yeah, like with a lot of original sci-fi films in general, this is the script overall is kind of a mess overall. It's trying to pay homage to classic 70s sci-fi, which you can definitely see it in the visual aspect, but in terms of the story, yeah, it's pretty weak overall. But then again, a lot of stories in these 1970s sci-fi movies were not that great. Sometimes you get a good one here and there, but most of the times that isn't the case with a film like this. It's kind of a boring movie too. Even with the impressive visuals and Tom Cruise doing the best he can to hold it together, the film itself is kind of boring in the scripting department overall. It's just not an engaging film. It has some great visuals to it, yeah, like I said, but at the same time, we always talk about it around here. Visuals don't always make the movie in general here. And at least Tron Legacy had a story to tell overall with it being a continuation of the Tron series. But this, characters just show up for no particular reason except to just be there to move the story along. The story itself is really nothing new we haven't seen done before. Yeah, on a technical level, it looks great. At the same time, though, it doesn't help that the movie's overall kind of bland and mediocre. And I don't even think a good scriptwriter could really save this in general here, because really, like I said, it's a hard thing to do to make an original sci-fi film that works very well. We've had examples of it working with District 9, for example. But to get one of those, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's like really, really hard to do. And for a film like this, it's almost there, but the script overall is just such a mess that it really needed an extra oomph to really be something unique and original to make it stand out. But as it is, it's just a bland movie in general here. A great-looking movie with the actors doing the best they can, but other than that, though, that's really all you got to say about this movie in general here. I was actually kind of let down going back and watching this again, because I thought it was going to be better after time has gone on, but it really is not. And Tom Cruise will be in a much better sci-fi film the following year with Edge of Tomorrow, which that movie does what this movie kind of fails to do in the scripting department, is take something that we've seen done before and give it its own unique edge to it overall. But, yeah, so up until then, we got this film, and not a bad movie, but not a great one either, so take that for what you will. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last film that we have here, and that's Rob Zombie's latest film, The Lords of Salem.
So you finally rented the dreaded number 5.
Oh, I hate to break it to you, but there is no person in number 5.
Ooh, scary. That's pretty much what you get the idea of in this movie here. It's a better Rob Zombie movie than Halloween 2, but it really isn't saying a whole lot. So this is Rob Zombie writing, producing, and directing this film, and it focuses on a troubled female disc jockey in Salem, Massachusetts, played by Rob Zombie's wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, whose life becomes entangled with a covenant of ancient Satan-worshipping women. That's about what you expect for a film like this. And you have a cast that also includes some notable veterans of film like Bruce Davidson, Ken Foray, Patricia Quinn, Dee Wallace, Maria Conchita Alonso, Meg Foster. So a lot of notable names in here. And like I said, it's a better movie than Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. But at the same time, though, it is kind of a jumbled mess overall. And again, kind of like with Oblivion, a lot of stuff we've seen done before. I'll give it this. At least this one feels more like an homage to those classic 70s horror movies than something like Oblivion was to classic 70s sci-fi. You can definitely tell Rob Zombie's getting a lot of inspiration from those classic films of the day, you know, stuff like Argento and Fulci, that type of stuff. You see it in here. And I'll give him credit where credit is due. It does create a nice atmospheric flow to it overall. In terms of being scary and all, it's not really anything like that. It's mostly kind of a forgettable film. But I'll give him credit that he was at least trying to do something that was different and get people back to what made Rob Zombie the unique director that he can be. Because he can be a really... Toy boat? I cannot speak tonight for some reason, but he can be a good horror director. And we've seen it. Even with his Halloween movie he did, the first one, you could definitely see the unique visual style he has to it. And that one worked for okay. This one kind of feels on the same wavelength here. I'm not really much of a Rob Zombie movie lover, but I do like what he did with House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. With this one, it's okay. It's nothing spectacular, nothing amazing, but it's definitely a lot better than his last movie. So take that for where credit is due. So yeah, not much more to say about that one. That is The Lords of Salem.
My name is Daniel Lugo, and I want to make America a better place. We're being kept down by people who cheated to get where they are, and I got a plan to change that.
You just can't take a guy's things.
Well, sure we can. He's a criminal.
Go, get him! Where is he? You got the wrong BMW? I looked exactly the same.
Nobody gets hurt, right?
I watched a lot of movies. I know what I'm doing. Why the police here? Somebody called about a black guy in their yard. What do you think they're doing here? Mission abort!
Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films that make up April 26, 2013, and we begin, of course, with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Michael Bay's latest film, Pain and Gain. In this movie, Daniel Lugo, played by Mark Wahlberg, is a regular bodybuilder who works at the Sun Gym along with his friend Adrian Doorball, played by Anthony Mackie. Sick of living the poor life, Lugo conducts a plan to kidnap Victor Kershaw, played by Tony Shalhoub, a regular at the gym and a rich spoiled businessman, and extort money from him by means of torture. With the help of recently released criminal Paul Doyle, played by Dwayne Johnson, the Sun Gym gang successfully get Kershaw to sign over all of his finances, but when Kershaw survives an attempted murder by the gang, he hires private investigator Ed Dubois, played by Ed Harris, to catch the criminals after the Miami Police Department fails to do so. And as I said before, Michael Bay is definitely one of the more polarizing directors in the history of cinema. Some of his movies can be really good. A lot of his movies, though, can be really bad. His good stuff has included stuff like The Rock, both Bad Boys movies, the first Transformers. His best movie, without a doubt, at this point was The Island, and his really bad stuff really comes down to Armageddon, Pearl Harbor, the Transformers sequels. So where does Pain and Gain rank in that list, honestly? It's kind of in the middle. Am I doing the 6-7 thing, which is the trend that everyone's talking about now? Which, yeah, I don't know about it either. But yeah, like I said, it's somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of good things I like about the movie, but there are a lot of bad things about it. I'll give it this. The actors overall are really good. Mark Wahlberg and The Rock work really well together, along with Anthony Mackie. Tony Shalhoub and Ed Harris are really good here. This was actually a really good movie for Rebel Wilson too. You don't see a lot in the trailer, but this is a movie that showed that, hey, her continuing growth as an actress and a comedian really performs very well in the films that follow after Pitch Perfect. The action overall is really good. This is a movie that only cost $26 million to make, and it shows what Michael Bay is capable of doing with that small of a budget. He made a good movie. He made a fun, entertaining film out of that, with the action sequences in general. The comedy overall is really good. The quips that these three main characters have with one another are usually very funny, and the comedy reminded me a lot of like a Looney Tunes Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoon, with Mark Wahlberg as the Wile E. Coyote character and Victor Kershaw as the Roadrunner. I thought it was actually kind of funny the way they handled a lot of that. The comedy overall isn't the best. It kind of kicks off the bad things about the movie. There's a lot of times when they do the comedy that's so childish, such as like a really bad shit joke that really kind of pissed me off when I first saw it the first time. And when it came on the screen, everyone else was laughing. I was just kind of like, why is this funny? Like, I mean, I literally felt like Homer when he got the crayon out of his brain and it made him smarter. And he goes into a movie theater to watch a bad Julia Roberts Richard Gere comedy, and everyone else is laughing at this whole thing. And he's the one that's just like, no, I don't find this funny at all. The only thing that was missing was everyone looking at me going like, someone isn't laughing. It's that guy. Like, I felt like that could have happened with a movie like this. But yeah, that's how I felt watching that scene in particular. The story overall really isn't well put together. It's based on a true story, but it does get really absurd at points, and it does take you out of the film at times. Most of the actors in here were good. The only one I thought was just kind of just there just to be the sex appeal is model Bar Paley, who plays the supermodel girlfriend of the Rock character, and she really was not trying to act in this. I mean, Michael Bay's known for having sexy women in everything he does. I mean, can you at least give one that can act? At least Megan Fox has proven that after Transformers she can act in Jennifer's body, and this is 40. But this is clearly Michael Bay wanted to put in something in there for the young teenagers to start jacking off to, pretty much. But give this movie credit where credit is due. It proves that Michael Bay can do a good, smaller movie, and I wish he would use that to work on other films that are much like this, instead of doing these bigger films down the line. And it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. It has good performances, good action, but the story and sometimes the childish humor gets a little too much. And you expect Michael Bay to go back to his roots with more films like this, but guess what his next film was? Another Transformers movie, and this time he brought along Mark Wahlberg thinking, hey, Pain and Gain was both a critical and a financial success, so maybe if I bring in Mark Wahlberg into the Transformers films, it'll instantly make it good. It didn't. It actually made it much, much worse, but we'll save that for the summer of 2014 with Age of Extinction. But Pain and Gain, good movie, not a great one. Take it for what it is. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, and that is The Big Wedding.
The tables are set. The guests have arrived. But before the ring goes on...
Piece of wedding advice, kid? Stay single as long as you can.
The gloves come off.
My ex-wife is here.
Oh, God.
This is going to go great.
On April 26th...
You really love me.
I do.
They have their whole lives in front of them.
We're very excited for the wedding.
Have you been successful thus far being intimate? Excuse me, sir? I'm kidding.
If they can only survive the weekend.
I swear, Don. What is going on with your family?
Would somebody just punch me in the face again?
Robert De Niro, Katherine Heigl, Diane Keaton, Amanda Seyfried, Topher Grace, with Susan Sarandon and Robin Williams.
You were in love with him from the first time I introduced you.
Well, then why didn't you just run me over with your car or something?
You were my best friend.
Would you please just skip to the happy ending?
Ring, ring. Blah, 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 blah.
At least no one will ever forget it.
The Big Wedding, rated R, starts April 26th.
Catherine, sweetheart, just be glad that you were in a movie that wasn't a terrible mess of a film. This is probably the best thing that you've been in post Knocked Up and 27 Dresses. And even then, this is not a very good movie overall. So this is an ensemble wedding comedy where you have Don and Ellie, Don being played by, is it Robert De Niro? Yes, Robert De Niro, and Diane Keaton, rest in peace, who were once married and had 2 children, Lila and Jared. They adopted a boy from Colombia named Alejandro, and eventually they would divorce. Ellie would move away, and Don would hook up with Bibi, played by Susan Sarandon, Ellie's best friend. When Alejandro was about to get married, he informs Don and Ellie that he never told his natural mother, who was so traditional, that they got divorced. And she's coming for the wedding, so he asks them if he can pretend to still be married. Don and Ellie reluctantly agree to it, and Bibi moves out, who is also upset that Don doesn't want to commit. Lila, who is married and is going through a rough patch in her marriage, and Jared, who hasn't had much luck with women, finds himself attracted to Alejandro's extremely sensual sister, Nuria. This is a film that also features a stacked cast. It also includes... It's a cast that has Ben Barnes as Alejandro, Amanda Seyfried as Missy, who's Alejandro's fiance, Katherine Heigl as the adoptive older sister, Topher Grace as the adoptive brother, Jared, Robin Williams, who plays Father Bill Monahan, Christine Ebersol, David Raish, Kyle Bornheimer. So there is a notable cast in this movie in particular. But the biggest problem with the movie right off the bat is that it feels like 7 different movies coming together into one film. Like, you see a little bit of Mamma Mia in there with Amanda Seyfried. You see a typical Katherine Heigl rom-com in this. You know, you see a plot taken from The Simpsons when Apu got married. You know, Robin Williams feels like he's still stuck in that character he was from License to Wed. I mean, there's so many different storylines going on in this movie that you needed a better script to really make it work. And the writer of this is actually not a bad writer overall, and he also directed too. Justin Zachman. He also wrote The Bucket List, which was a good movie. But he also did one of the more underrated FX shows you'll ever see called Lights Out. It's this great show with Holt Mulcahy, who's this boxer who's dealing with Alzheimer's disease. It's a really good show that only lasted 1 season on FX, and sadly didn't get another season after that, obviously. But a great show if you can find it on there. I'm sure you can find it on Hulu or something. But he also wrote Second Act, which was actually one of the few Jennifer Lopez romantic comedies I actually do really like, because that was directed by Peter Siegel. But this film, like I said, it's a movie that's way all over the place in the story department in terms of copying other movies into one. And it felt like it felt like 6 to 7 different scripts coming together and slammed into one movie without a real sense of what kind of a story they really wanted to tell here. The jokes overall really aren't that funny. The actors overall are trying their best to keep it together, but in the end, you never really get the sense that they really had a good idea of what kind of a film they wanted to do here, except let's make a wedding comedy and see if we can find success with it. Because, hey, My Big Fat Greek Wedding was the big wedding hit back in the day. 27 Dresses was the big wedding hit 5 years ago. Surely we can do this all over again and make it work. And it really doesn't work, unfortunately. Despite the best efforts of everybody involved in the cast, there's just nothing there in the script that really makes it stand out, or something that should make it an entertaining film. And it sadly just isn't there with this film. So, a skip on The Big Wedding. So take that for what you will. But let's go ahead and move on to easily the best film of the week, and that's Matthew McConaughey starring in Mud.
I got a lot of folks looking for me.
Mud needs your help.
You're the only friends I got out here.
You know you don't know him, right?
All the trouble he's got is because of her.
You need it to protect her?
Yeah,
I do love her.
I'd do anything for her.
Everything you told me was a lie.
We got too much riding on this.
Matthew McConaughey.
Hell of a thing, ain't it?
Mud, rated PG-13.
And remember, kids, Mud spelled backwards is dumb. When am I ever going to use that Looney Tunes reference in anything else? Honestly, but this is Mud. This is written and directed by Jeff Nichols. Jeff Nichols, of course, is the same man that gave us other movies like Midnight Special, Loving. His most recent film was The Bike Riders, and before this, he did Take Shelter, which was a very underrated Michael Shannon film. And in this movie, you have Ty Sheridan and Jacob Laughlin playing a pair of teenagers who encounter the titular Mud, played by Matthew McConaughey, a fugitive hiding on a small island, and agrees to help him evade his pursuers. You also have a cast that includes Sam Shepard, Michael Shannon, Joe Don Baker, Baker, Sarah Paulson, Reese Witherspoon is in this movie too. It was actually the last film Joan Down Baker appeared in before his death in 2025, and it's a really damn good movie. It was a great time for Matthew McConaughey to have this career renaissance. You know, the year before he had Bernie, and then he also had another movie before, in 2012 that he also did that was actually really good. What movie was it? I know Magic Mike was another one too. I should have mentioned that one, but Bernie was one. There was another one he did last year that kind of got overlooked, but I can't remember what it was. Not The Paperboy, I don't think. Maybe I'm misreading it here. Killer Joe, that's what it was. Killer Joe. It really began, if you want to go back to it, it really kind of began with Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, even though that was a Matthew McConaughey comedy. It really was a movie that showed the reminder that, hey, Matthew McConaughey can be a good actor, kind of like how Bill Murray was in Scrooge. But The Lincoln Lawyer, I think, really was the film that kind of started that trend of welcoming Matthew McConaughey back into the spotlight, and then he just kept putting out one hit after another. Even The Paperboy, which was not a good movie, worked casting-wise, with Matthew McConaughey giving a really good performance. And here, he knocks it out of the park in this movie. This is a really good coming-of-age drama that works because the actors are really playing at their best here. The adventure is really good here. You really do get a sense of every character and their motivations in here. It is just such a strongly put together film, a well done film. It's definitely one worth checking out. If you haven't seen it already, seek out Mug. It's definitely a really good film and really does show that Matthew McConaughey is back in the swing of things, and he'll eventually be well rewarded for his great work later on in the year with Dallas Buyers Club, and then following that up with True Detective. But that's still a little bit away here, but Mud is a really good movie. Can't recommend this one enough. So, with all of that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is the epic Kon-Tiki.
Action! Mango fruit. Mango drink. Juice! Mango juice! Mango liquid refreshment. Mango. Take Charlie Weaver to block. You imbecile! You call yourself an actor? Give me that! You open the bottle and say, mango juice.
I said Kon-Tiki, not the Tiny Toon Adventures episode Kon-Ducky. Though, to be perfectly honest, most of us probably even knew what Kon-Tiki was solely because of Tiny Toon Adventures. I mean, that's pretty much a given at this point if you grew up in the 90s like I did. But this is Kon-Tiki. This is a story about a Norwegian explorer, Thor Heyerdahl, who crosses the Pacific Ocean in a balsa-wood raft in 1947, together with 5 men to prove that South Americans back in pre-Columbian times could have crossed the ocean and settled on Polynesian islands. After financing the trip with loans and donations, they set off on an epic 101-day-long trip across 8,000 kilometers while the world was waiting for the result of the trip. The film tells the origin of the idea, the preparations, and the events of the trip. The Kon-Tiki was named after the Inca sun god Ferocia, and Kon-Tiki is an old man named for this god. Heyerdahl filmed the expedition, which later became the Academy Award-winning documentary in 1951, and he wrote a book about the expedition, which has been translated into 70 languages and sold more than 50 million copies all over the world. Heyerdahl believed that people from South America could have settled Polynesia in pre-Columbian times, although most anthropologists now believe they did not. Anyway, he proved that it was possible by using only the materials and technologies available to those people at the time. The trip took 101 days, over 4,300 miles across the Pacific Ocean before the Kon-Tiki crashed onto the dangerous reef outside Raiola in the Tuamotu Islands on August 7, 1947. All crewmen survived, and the Kon-Tiki was taken back to Norway. She is now featured in the Kon-Tiki Museum. I want to thank OJT for creating that wonderful history lesson in the plot synopsis for this movie, because good lord, I mean, if you needed to know about what the Kon-Tiki was, there you go, there it is right there. But this is actually a pretty good movie, a very stylized, really cool-looking movie that's a very small-budgeted film disguised as kind of a big-budget epic movie. It's directed by Joachim Roning and Espen Sandberg, who these two would later work on some go ahead and work with Disney on some projects, specifically Joaquin Roning, who did Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, which was not a great movie, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, which was not a great movie, and Tron Ares, which, say it with me, folks, was not a really good movie. I have taught you all well, but yeah, those movies he made later on were not great, but this one is a really good movie. It reminds me a lot of District 9, how you could take a small budget and create a big sweeping epic of a movie with the little budget that you can, and it makes for a very intriguing movie. If you never knew the story about this is a really good way of figuring out how to tell the story and really show the possibilities of what you could do with such a small budget. And this film really does knock it out of the park very well. It's a movie that doesn't get as much attention, mostly because this director's work with Disney has been lackluster overall, but this film overall really is a very underrated film, and one I highly recommend checking out. There we go again. I'm sorry, I got Tiny Toon Adventures on the mind. It's a really funny episode, but if you want to know the real story behind the Kon-Tiki, this one actually is a really good film, and I do recommend checking it out. Kon-Tiki, can't recommend this one enough, but also check out the Tiny Toons episode. It's really, really funny.